Good day, everybody. Welcome to the Lifetime Training Podcast. I'm Jason Stella, your host, as you know, and I've got an amazing guest for you today, Mr. Dan John. Dan is power lifter, Highland Games athlete, discus thrower, so on and so forth. And I can't wait to get into what we're going to discuss today as a topic around minimalist training and really the effectiveness that you can have with a little bit less work and a little bit more recovery. So Dan, thank you very much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This is going to be good. Yeah, appreciate this.
Awesome. Well, you know, you're known for many things, and I know that you've done a ton throughout your career, but, you know, obviously minimalist is something that is, you know, kind of tagged in almost conjunction with you. And I'd love for you to dive into that a little bit more.
Well, yeah, that's a problem right away. I hate that phrase. So we have a thing in discus throwing. It comes from John Powell, and he was helping this boy throw the discus. Yeah. And the boy, and really our system is stretch, 1, 2, 3. Those are the 4 words we teach you. And so the boy started doing this and he fell on the ground and he looked up and he said to John, "You said this would be easy." And John said, No, I said this would be simple, not easy. So when I come to things, and God bless Pavel, I think he said something very nice to me. He said that it's called, he says, my training is Simplexity. It's extremely complex, but it sounds so simple. And so we have to be very careful because when you hear certain phrases, you get down this road of, no, I said it was simple. I didn't say it was easy. And that is hard to understand. And so, like, I have a program called the One Lift a Day, and people go, well, you know, what if I add, well, if you can add another lift, then you didn't do the first one right. If it's Tuesday and it's front squat day, and you, at the end of 45 minutes of front squat, you say, boy, I sure feel like doing something else, then you didn't do a very good job on the front squats. Yep. Your job at the end of the 45 minutes of front squat should be, I can't wait to get out of here and in my car and probably eat a lot of fiber because tomorrow's gonna be a long day. So you got to be careful. You know, it's weird you're saying this. I don't want to give the advertisements to the magazines I'm flipping through right now, but I've been looking for some articles from a very smart guy, John McKeon. He's one of those guys. He's an all-around weightlifter. Why I've got great, boy, you know, Jace, if I was going to tell you they've got to have 300 competitive lifts in their little, you know, when they put together they pick 12 lifts sometimes, and they compete in 12 different lifts. And index finger deadlifts, middle finger deadlifts, hack squats, Zercher deadlifts. I mean, you name it, they compete in it. And one of the things I like about reading his work is he keeps trying to go, this is the sport, but you can't train for 300 different lifts, but you can. And that's when I want to talk to somebody. Is I don't want to hear what we can't do. I want to hear what we can do. Yeah. And that's when so for me, that's when my brain kicks in, and it's like, okay, so how are you going to warm up if you have a dozen different lifts? How are you going to warm up for a dozen? Well, you can't. I mean, obviously you do something, but you gotta. So what we need to do, I think, in where we're at now is we got to be a little smarter than Let's move on, but we'll come back to this point later. Okay.
No, and I think that's a huge point. Is, you know, the most complex things in the world sometimes are explained in the simplest formula, but that doesn't mean that it's easy for everybody to understand. Obviously, you know, yin yang, or, you know, E equals MC squared, things like that.
Yeah. One of my assessments, it's called 3, is one of them is, do you eat colorful vegetables every day? And people, and I'm trying to come up with a better question. And one of them is, do you eat vegetables at every meal? And that doesn't work. And here's where I've moved that question to, do you ever eat salad for breakfast? And now the reason I say this, Jace, is because when you ask somebody if they eat salad for breakfast, you get a real sense to how they eat every meal. If I say, you've ever eaten salad for breakfast? And they go, are you kidding me? No one eats. They will get angry. And I'm like, okay, that's why I like this question. Yeah. Because you can summarize good nutrition down with, have you ever eaten salad at breakfast? Mm-hmm. If the person loses their mind, then we can kind of guess there's a good chance they don't eat very many vegetables in a typical day. Vegetables. I didn't say toast, and I didn't say breakfast cereal or granola bars.
And they're going to be difficult to work with.
Oh, you bet. So sometimes the search for the simple, for the basic, for the minimal, is you have to kind of you have to keep asking new questions and keep trying to break it out to what is crucial and core and important. Yeah.
Got it. So, but you've broken things down, into, some of the stuff that I've read is, two workouts a week, different aspects of that, and how to maximize. Because I think, as we talked about it before, as we get older, we have more time, but we also want to spend that time a lot of times elsewhere. And then there's other people that I think, maybe they're in the heart of their kids and work and job and profession, and they don't have a lot of time. And I think the stuff that you promote, and that you explain and teach is, again, simple, but not easy. And I would love for you to dive into some of those concepts.
Well, the first thing I think is one of my core. Well, I'm going to give you two different core principles.
Okay.
The first one is that the body is one piece. And this is something this has been a pillar of my coaching for a long time. So one of the problems we have, especially now because of the influence of the bodybuilders, is most people think of themselves like arm day, lat day, butt day, thigh day, calf day. And it turns out to be bench and curl every day, Yeah. And when I hear that kind of stuff, I push back against that bodybuilding belief, because most of us, even if we tried, we wouldn't look like the cover of a magazine. I mean, no offense to our gentle listeners, but there's a real good chance that your face ain't gonna be on Entertainment Weekly, even if you really, it ain't gonna happen, So I've moved. One of the things I've moved, like most people, is I basically just have 5 things in the weight room: push, pull, hinge, squat, loaded carry. And if you do those 3 days a week, you do a push variation, a pull variation, and a squat variation. Let's just say 3 sets of 8 or 5 sets of 5. You did some kind of hinge, like a deadlift, and then you did farmer walks and went home. If you accumulate, 160 of those workouts in a year, 3 days a week, basically a year with maybe even some time off, wonderful things are going to happen to you. And it's not going to be very sexy. You're not going to go for the burn. You're not going to blitz anything. You're not going to terrorize your trapezius or any of that nonsense, but you're going to look good, feel good. And when someone needs to move a couch, they're going to call you up. Man, I'm 64 years old and everyone still calls me. Literally today, I got called to move a dresser. Why do you go through you go through your phone list, and you got your cousin who's 22, you got your brother who's 25, you got this guy, and there's Dan who's 64. Let's have him help me move this thing, because my training kind of reflects what makes you sort of useful on this planet. The other thing, it's my key coaching point, is embrace the obvious. And it's weird to say this, but I don't want to hear about your workout. I want to hear about the quality of your sleep first. And I don't want to hear about your workout. I want to know how many vegetables a day you're eating. Once you take care of your sleep, you eat your vegetables, you drink your water, you take your protein, then we'll talk about whether you should be doing 5 sets of 5 or 3 sets of 8, whether you should do vertical or horizontal presses. And to me, embrace the obvious is probably the hardest thing for most people to hear. Throwers throw, jumpers jump, sprinters sprint, swimmers swim. And if you want to be healthy or fit, if you don't mind, I'll go through that in just a second. But you've got to take care of the basics of health and fitness before you worry about which machine to do curls on.
Yeah. And something we had some guests on, we talked about the importance of your workout is only as good as your recovery. You're breaking yourself down, so if you're not doing the things to help yourself, and then we get into this kind of dogma of a thought of, I'm going to go work out to get rid of my stress. I'm high stressed. I'm not sleeping. I'm not eating. And then I'm going to go do some more stress. And right. That doesn't work.
And I get it. In fact, I've written in the past, I've written about how I go work out. I've often worked out the stress of a bad day. I've worked out dealing with 2 middle school daughters, which is the hardest thing I've ever done in my life.
I'll be calling you on that one. I've got one going to be driving.
Trust me on that one. Yeah. You think you're tough, you think you're brave. Middle school girls will take you down. I love them to death, but
Yeah.
it's 24/7.
Yeah.
But sometimes you just need to go into the gym and work things out, and I get that. My vision for most people is to address it the same way you address an academic degree, where you could certainly cram a whole bunch of information to pass a test, but do I really want the dentist who fooled around for 4 years and then crammed hard the last week and memorized a bunch of junk? That's not the dentist I want to be opening my mouth up to. My heart surgeon, the guy who, is it aorta? How many of those? I learned this on a test one time. Yeah, that's not the heart guy I want to go see. And so for me, training sessions, there should be push, pull, hinge, squat, loaded carry. There should be some mobility movement. There should be, I always finish my workouts and either go for a heavy hands walk, a ruck. Today it was a bicycle ride, but I always finish my workout and then go. I walk for about, I don't want to exaggerate. So at 20 to 30 minutes, that is what I do. Occasionally up to much as 45 minutes after I lift. And when I do that walking after I lift, that's kind of what some people believe. So lifting frees up the free fatty acids, then my walk kind of eats them. I don't care if that's true or not, because the walk now has become the most important part of my training session, because that's when I unwind, deload. I Olympic lift. So I do the snatch and clean and jerk in my training sessions. I do loaded carries, and then I go for a walk. And to keep my spine young and pliable, the walk is my major.
Love it.
It's I call it my poor man's chiropractor, And when you slide over to thinking of these training sessions, and that I'm building the brick upon the brick upon the brick, I see our athletic and lifting careers. I hate to call it the Great Wall of China. It could be Great Wall of China, Hadrian's Wall. You can call it, I don't know, the Sphinx of the pyramids, whatever you want to use. But we're building. It's never going to be that single workout. It's going to be that mass of training days catching up. Years ago, I wrote an article for Men's Health, and it's weird because I actually got some. It was one of the first times I ever wrote an article that had a forum underneath it, and it was about New Year's resolutions, which I think are a joke.
Yep.
But the goal was, in 1 year, your resolution was to weigh 1 pound less. And I said, I don't care. I don't want to hear about what diet you're using. I don't want to hear about the fact that you're vegan, vegetarian, Ornish, Atkins. I don't want to hear it. On December 31st, a year from today, you're 1 pound lighter. And I don't care what you have to do from November on to get there. And and it's interesting because a few people actually listened to it and they were like, that's what I need to think about in the future. Building day to day becomes week to week, month to month, year to year. And then the place I'm at, I started lifting weights in 1965. That's a lot of 6-week programs. That's a lot of 2 weeks to, Titanic triceps. That's a lot of, blitzing biceps and burning
on Fridays.
I've run out of words. I don't have any more muscles I can rhyme with. So
Well, and some of the stuff I was reading too is that you have a kind of a 4-quadrant type philosophy, and how so many people and so many trainers out there and people want to train in quadrants that they just don't belong in. Would you mind going through what those quadrants are?
Okay. So years ago, Pavel asked a good question. He said, what's the role of the strength coach? And I said, well, that's easy. No, coach strength. I mean, I'm not an idiot. That's my job. And he goes, no, that's not what I mean. He goes, what is the impact? And I went like this. Well, impact. And I spent the better part of a year doing that. And I somewhere around the house have my yellow pad that goes through all the ideas. But basically, I came down to this, that there's an X and Y axis, and one axis, the lower, the bottom, we'll just say the bottom, as you go to the right, it's the number of qualities you need for your sport or your activity. And, for example, In American football, you need to know the rules. You have to have 7 men on the line of scrimmage to start an offensive play. There's blocking, there's tackling, there's the rules for a muffed punt are different than the rules for a touched kickoff, which are different than the rules for a fumble after a pass reception. The rule. Okay, and if they show up in the wishbone versus the run and shoot. They're okay. Lots and lots and lots and lots of qualities. Discus thrower, got to be strong, got to know your technique. 2 qualities, very small. And then on the vertical axis, it was very simple. It was basically the absolute max that humans could do. It's strange for me to say this out loud, but I've only deadlifted a few times in my life. I think it's just 3. But I did one time for a weightlifting meet at 3 a.m. on a Sunday morning. I pulled 628. Okay. Just because I asked the official, what's the next heaviest weight? And he said 628. And so that's what I lifted. I'm about half what the strongmen are doing now. So as a discus thrower, I've snatched over 300. I've cleaned over 4. And it sounds great until you realize in my weight class, that wouldn't even get me on the platform at the nationals. Okay. So even though for a discus thrower, I'm strong, I ain't strong compared to Olympic lifters. So it breaks into 4 quadrants. Quadrant 1, lots and lots and lots and lots of quality. It's very low level, middle school, high school, physical education. Quadrant 2, lots and lots and lots of qualities at really extremely high levels. Professional football, rugby, special forces. So, special forces guys, I always tell people, they know 100 things at a B+ level. Then that's pretty tough to do.
Yeah.
It's weird for me to go into an NFL locker room and be the smallest, slowest guy in the room. It's very hard for my ego. Quadrant 3 is where most of us live, and that's track and field. Very few qualities at a fairly low level. If you want to be good in the discus, you got to snatch, clean, and have beautiful technique. If you want to lose some body fat, you got to eat more vegetables, get more sleep, go for a walk now and again, but fat loss happens in the kitchen. And then there's quadrant 4, very few qualities, but at the highest levels humans can achieve. Somebody the other day was telling about there's this high school program that has 2 kids who run 900 meters, which is really fast. And they would be about 15 meters behind Usain Bolt when he finishes a race. The fastest person you will ever meet is a truck compared to the fastest sprinters. Strongest person you ever know, compared to the elite Olympians and the elite powerlifters, is weirdly, freakishly weak. So that's the quadrants.
Got it.
And when I get you, so if you say you want to train like a Navy SEAL, I slap you across the face and simply say, you can't train like one, but what you can do is, go down to the recruiter, get in the Navy, get through boot camp, and then sign up for BUDS. And then when you finish BUDS and you finish the next thing and the next thing and the next thing and the next thing, no matter what you do, you'll be trained like a Navy SEAL, because you will be. If you want to train like an NFL football player and you're 47, you can't.
Yeah.
You can't. In fact, NFL players don't train like that very long because they don't survive very long.
Yeah. Well, there's a couple of things too that I picked up on, is you mentioned it many times, is the technique and the skill that's required to develop. And I think, seeing kids, especially, my kids are teenage to 8 years old, and, seeing the speed, agility, quickness stuff that coaches, I think intention might be good, but what they're doing there isn't. And, have you had any experience with the younger kids, and how have you been able to get through to them the importance of the fundamental technique, so that they're not just deadlifting, or they're not just squatting, or they're not doing these things to get the weight moved versus doing it the right way?
Well, the first word would be constant. You got to get Mad-Eye Moody from Harry Potter and hire him as a coach. It's constant assessment, and it has to be one of the hardest things about coaching at the high school level and the middle school level, or junior high level, depending on where you're from, which I've done, by the way, is the fact that You can't be reading the newspaper. You can't have your feet up on the desk. And I know some coaches do it, and they should be fired on the spot and hire someone who gives a damn. Yeah. It has to be hands-on. Every moment you're in the weight room facility, you are in the most dangerous place on the campus. The bench press is an exercise that can kill. We have lifts in there that can hurt someone in a moment. It is dangerous. Okay, that's true. However, long term, the quality of your teaching impacts them for a long time, not just in their athletic career, which of course, for most kids is going to be barely high school. In fact, many kids, don't survive the high school rigors. So you have to be constant vigilance. I mean, where's Mad Eye Moody? Constant vigilance. You have to be on task. The reason I invented the goblet squat was because instead of having 5 kids at once, I had 65. And my old system of teaching the squat was great if I had 3 kids. If I had 65, it didn't work. So I had to come up, and that's where the goblet squat came by. Teaching tension. That's when I came up with some of the loaded carries, like the suitcase carry. Because while you're going around a circle with me coaching, staying tall, not talking to your partner, holding on to this load, your body is learning tension. So it's, all the push-up variations I used to teach had nothing to do with push-ups. It was trying to teach what tension was supposed to feel like to the adolescent. And those are lessons in life that carry on. I was with a former American record holder Saturday, and the athlete wants to have one more shot at the Olympics. And it was an interesting conversation because I was talking to this athlete about things that they should have known at 13 and 14 about tension and arousal levels, and how, your arousal level has to raise up as you march through a season. But you can't be thinking that the Utah Valley University Invitational is the Olympic trials or the Olympic finals. It's a kumbaya meeting. Everyone's, so you have to change your arousal level to deal with that. So these are, but here's the other thing, and my daughters will tell you, she one time told me that learning the deadlift was as instructive for being a parent as anything she'd ever done any other thing, because the deadlift teaches you to build a massive amount of tension and then you let it go. And if we can't teach you to let it go, that tension, you're going to have a real hard time surviving in life. After you get into an auto accident, it's strange. I don't know if you've ever been around an auto accident, but if it's a fender bender, people turn rage and want to fight each other to the death. If it's a T-bone where someone's bleeding out, everyone is kind and wonderful because the tension and the arousal level are opposite of what you should think. And this is a life lesson that I've used many times. I can turn my tension and my arousal level, skyrocket it, and bring it down in moments because of my lifetime in sports. So if something does happen, like I'm getting, just a few weeks ago when I'm sitting there doing my taxes and I get, and my accountant gives me a number I have to come up with, I pretended it was the Nationals and turned my tension and arousal levels down. I didn't drop any F-bombs and I didn't punch anything. I just went, okay, let's go to plan B.
Well, and that's what I think a lot of times parents, depending upon the level of sport that they played, don't quite understand how things relate, how good coaches can relate the sports to life and really make them a better, more successful, more resilient person later on in life.
Absolutely. And that's why done correctly, scholastic sports is one of the greatest teachers there is. There's an English teacher who once said the only area in scholastic education we haven't dumbed down is high school football, because someone's still trying to kill you. And maybe we're a kumbaya team, we're just going to sit around and bang a drum instead of calling plays. But that kid over there is going to hurt somebody.
Especially at the size and speed at which they are nowadays.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things you talked about is you don't really deadlift, you said, that much, and you haven't that much. And it's such a popular exercise that, you know, some people love, some people
Sure.
don't. Would you love just expanding on, your thoughts around that lift and, why you haven't, and then what the pros and cons are there?
Yeah, because I'm an Olympic lifter and I don't need
Yep.
it, would be the quickest way to say it. Yeah, it's called the Hinge. It's called the Hinge
Yep.
Family. I teach something I came up with years ago called the hip displacement continuum. A hinge is maximal hip bend, and a squat is maximal hip bend. But the difference is a squat is maximal knee bend and a hinge is appropriate or minimal knee bend. The most powerful thing you can do is hinge. And that's what, if you see someone doing a standing long jump, they're doing everything but deadlifting a bar. The standing long jump is the easiest way to teach the Hinge family, easiest way to teach the snatch, the clean. So yeah, I'm a believer that the most important thing you can do in the weight room actually is hinge. Now you want to maintain the squat, and obviously pushing and pulling makes you look better on the beach, and loaded carries build up your work capacity. So when I coach athletes, I focus on the hinge family and loaded carries, the farmer walks, sled pulls, prowlers. And when you combine the snap of the hinge with the work capacity of loaded carry, I call that snapacity. Snapacity is what I try to coach athletes in. I want you to be able to hit your opponent more times than your opponent can hit you. I want you to be able to throw the discus more times than your opponent throws the discus. So work capacity and the snap. So that whole hinge family is what not only does it make you a better athlete, but I also think it's what burns fat. There's an exercise called the Kettlebell Swing, and most books, there's a bunch of books that quote me saying the Kettlebell Swing is a fat burning athlete builder. And you'll find that in Pavel Simple and Sinister and a couple other books too about kettlebells. And they quote me because that's what I said. I mean, I do have this weird little challenge called the 10,000 swing challenge, and it's a silly thing. It takes about 4 weeks to do it, 500 swings a day. But the idea on it is at the end of those 10,000 swings in those 20 workouts is that you stand back and your grip is better, your mobility of your whole hip region is better, your butt sits a little bit higher in your pants, and your ab wall has shrunken magically down somehow. And so for me, I'm a huge fan of the hinge. Now, if you're just deadlifting, I think that's fine too, as long as you have appropriate technique. And the downside of a deadlift is that, if you do something stupid, and, a deadlift can be the thing that could take, for example, I would never, if your cousin Larry decides he needs help moving and you move him all day Saturday, on a hot, muggy day, and there's 29 flights of stairs, and, it's all couches and hideaway beds, which are the worst things in the world to pick up. I don't suggest deadlifting on Monday.
Yeah.
I would skip Monday's deadlift day, because all those little tweaks and turns and, trying to strap that hideaway bed from popping open, sofa sleepers, nightmare. You decide to go, forget, you don't know who I am. You deadlift heavy on Monday, and you might be not working out for months because your back's going to tweak.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned Pavel several times, and I'd love to kind of understand, how did that relationship start? And, how did that thing, grow? And you guys taught together, I believe. And
And in fact, we're writing a book together again as we speak, and another version of Easy Strength.
Okay.
It's a funny little story. Charles Staley used to host this one-day thing he called a boot camp. He'd bring in 6 or 7 speakers, and they'd all get about an hour. On Wednesday before, one of the speakers canceled, and Charles had an hour-long gap, and one of my athletes, Mike Bukowski, said, just have Dan John speak. He can fill in an hour. And Charles said, who's Dan John? And so they brought me down, and Pavel was the guy who came right after me, and we just started talking. And my background in track and field and Olympic lifting tied in real well with his background in the martial arts and the kettlebell world. We were basically saying the same things, very much so the same things, with just a little bit different. We're saying the same things, but the terms were different. the nouns were different, but the words were the same. And we became friends. We started, I brought the goblet squat into the kettlebell world. The way they taught the squat, no offense, those guys were terrible. So when I got my cert as a kettlebell instructor, I think I'm the first person ever to teach a movement at their own cert. And it's funny because there was a cert, I think within 2 weeks, and they had completely rewritten the section on squatting to just be the goblet squat. Some of the carries that I recommended, really the kettlebell carries family can be really good. And we both had the same, he calls it the reminiscence effect. It's when you threw the discus when you throw the discus for 40 years and you take 3 years off, when you pick it up again, very often you're better because your nervous system had a chance to floss out all that crap. And so we were saying the same things with just different words.
Got it.
He was talking about the kettlebell swing and I'd be talking about the hinge and that kind of thing. But yeah, we became friends because we both speak the language of, I hate to say this sentence, but don't take this as, us versus them, but kind of an intelligent strength training. And I'm not saying that there's dumb strength trainers, except there are. But so it was this idea that, what I like to have when I coach strength training is I like what I teach you to be repeatable at your facility. So if I teach you the goblet squat on Monday, you can teach the goblet squat. If I teach you the suitcase carry Monday, all your trainees are doing suitcase carries. If I teach you a technique, they're instantly repeatable. And I think Pavel's the same. I'm not a big fan of voodoo, that you need 5 spotters and a lot of expensive equipment to do anything I said. So I think that's where we're kind of close.
And getting into, again, diving into that kind of 2-day week, because I'd love to give some concept. And obviously you have many books and websites and the workout programmer and all that other stuff that you've got. But I'd love for you to talk, just about, the power of, potentially, really only working out a couple days a week, but what else also has to be involved in that, to be able to maintain general health.
Well, okay, so let's go down this road first. Okay, health, and I use Maffetone's definition, is the optimal interplay of the human organs. So health is flossing your teeth. Health is going to see the eye doctor, the dentist, the medical doctor. Health is blood tests.
Yep.
Okay. Fitness is the ability to do a task. You could be in a wheelchair. You could be unable to use your limbs, but as a male father or child, because that's a different system. Mm-hmm. So you're fit to become a father, but you might not be fit to do some other things that being a dad might incur. Longevity, of course, is a quality and a quantity discussion. And that's why I think it's important to always separate longevity out. Mm-hmm. And then there's what I coach, and that's called performance. And performance is when someone says your name and you have to do it. Right over there is Mount Olympus. And if you said you want to climb Mount Olympus, well, you have 366 days a year to walk over there to the base and climb. The Nationals is at 9:00 in Spokane, Washington on a Saturday in June. And when they say your name, you step up. And that's the only time you can win the Nationals. Yeah. So that's my world, and that's a different world. So when we're looking at health, the most valuable thing our listeners can do would be don't smoke, wear your seatbelt, floss your teeth, get a good night's sleep, eat your vegetable just like mom told you. Hopefully your mom told you that. Drink water, those kinds of things. When we want to slide over and look better, feel better, move better, that's when this other thing called training shows up. And I personally, I like it. I like you to go in and do the basics, the push, the pull movement, a squat movement. Doesn't have to be heavy. The movement of squatting is most important, not necessarily the load. A hinge to build up that snap, and loaded carries to build up that work capacity. Between the exercises, I'd love you to do mobility, which is the free movement of the joints. If I can get you in the weight room 2 days a week, so for the, let's do it, make it as easy as we can. A vertical press, military press, lat pull down, front squat, 3 sets of 8 with a minute rest, walk over to the trap bar, do some trap bar deadlifts, pick up 2 really heavy dumbbells and go as far as you can. Between all those exercises, get your mobility work in. Put that farmer bar down with your heart going thump, 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 thump. Go for a walk. You're welcome. Thank you so much. You will be, yeah, that will be a good, solid, intelligent, repeatable program.
Yep.
And
yeah, and that's what, again, I was looking at the population of people who just now are getting out of, hey, I don't need to have a 6-pack ripped. I just want to be able to be with my kids, move better. I want to play golf. I want to do this, or I want to do that. And, so many people emphasize it's got to be done 4 or 5 days a week, and you got to do this, you got to do that.
So, I mean, Jason, I know I'm an outlier. I lift weights 5 days a week. And I go for walks, bikes, rides, rucks, or heavy hands. It's probably 6 or 7 days a week. Okay. But I've built in on those weight workouts. I have a whole day Thursday where I just do mobility work. Monday, which is today as we're talking, is my light Olympic lifting day, where I try to exaggerate the bottom positions for mobility and flexibility reasons. So even if you do decide to train more, what I'd like you to think about is taking, so here's a workout where I'm going to spend more time. Tuesday tends to be our long ruck day. That's when I load up the heavy backpack, put weights in my hands, put weights on my ankles, and go about 2.4 miles with a very substantial load. Well, that's kind of a cardio day because my heart goes through the roof. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, even if you decide to train more days a week, I don't necessarily mean that you train 5 days a week on the same damn machines you use every single time. Look for other qualities. You don't have to go to a gym to do your mobility. You don't have to go to a gym to get your walk in. Hire a dog. Dogs love walking. They're a built-in. They're the best personal trainer I know.
So, and you have an assessment. I think it's 1, 2, 3, 4. Is it really 4? Yeah. Would you mind spending some time talking about that?
Yeah. Okay. Here we go.
Yeah.
So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, and each one of these, the number will correspond to what we're doing. So 1, can you stand on 1 foot for 10 seconds? And if you can't, then I send you to a medical doctor because something's wrong with you. I work with a couple of people with Parkinson's, a couple of people with MS. By the way, it's very important to me that we train underserved populations. I think if you're going to be part of my system, Taylor works with cystic fibrosis, I work with MS and Parkinson's. So if you can't stand on 1 foot for 10 seconds, there's something wrong. Now you might just say, well, it's because I'm 85. Well, I still want you to see a medical doctor.
Yeah.
So now we slide over to number 2. First assessment on these are 2 measurements. This one is another one of these yes, no's. If you weigh over 300 pounds, I send you to an eye doctor, a dentist, and a medical doctor, because you need medical intervention. Now, here's the thing. The eye doctor is going to pick up some things with the high blood pressure, cholesterol, and a few other things. The dentist, I'm going to tell you to eat a lot of vegetables, but if you need a crown and you got 6 cavities, you can't do it. Here's this great idea. You can't do. You're going to slide over to beige foods. And then, of course, by the time you get to the medical doctor, you'll already have heard most of this already. But, I worked with a young man, weighed 350. He's down to 275 now, but he needed medical intervention. He needed help. So stand on 1 foot. 1, 2 measurements. Measurement number 2 is pretty simple. It's this very expensive device I use. It's called a tape measure. And we take your height and then we measure your waistline. If your waistline is over half your height, you're a body composition client. I don't care who you are. Hi, I'm Dan and I'm a body composition client because my waistline is over half my height. And it's coming down. I'm very proud of it. It's going down. But for whatever reason, I woke up fat this last year or so again. I'm down to where I should be. And in fact, I might even get a little bit lighter. If my waistline is under half, then, well, that means, okay, you're not body composition. So I have this little Venn diagram, but we won't worry about it now. Yeah. So stand on one foot. Are you over? Yes, no, 300. And it male or female, I don't care. Is your waistline under half your height? And that if it's over your body composition, if you're under, then we'll talk about something else. Then there's three questions. Stand on one foot, 2 measurements, 3 questions. First question is, how many pillows does it take for you to sleep soundly at night? If it's more than 1, you're a mobility client. Now, most men I work with, we call them 2s. They're a combination of body comp and mobility. Now, the upside of this is that when a male works on his mobility, he tends to not only need less pillows, but sleep better, less tossing and turning. And if you sleep better, your body composition starts turning itself in a better direction. So mobility. So if you don't know what to do as a male, train body comp and mobility, and you'll get it right. The next 2 questions are just to test you on what kind of client you're going to be. Do you eat colorful vegetables every day? And of course, everyone says yes. So I have follow-up questions. And the new one is, of course, if you ever had salad for breakfast. And if the person gets angry, I know they don't eat vegetables. And then the third question is, do you exercise for half an hour a day? Now, if you said, yes, I eat colorful vegetables, yes, I eat, and you exercise for half an hour a day, I say, well, then that's weird because I can't help you. And then, of course, the person starts coming around to the truth. And that's part of my job, is to get people to be honest. So stand on one foot, 2 measurements, 3 questions, and now 4 tests. Though really it's just the first one. Can you hold any plank for 2 minutes? If you can't hold a plank for 2 minutes, you are a strength client. Most women I work with need strength. Now, they're what we call 4s in our system. They need, it's interesting, they have body composition here. So they want to sweat, but really what they need to do is get stronger. In my workshops, I often show videos of these 52-year-old women I work with who look amazing in bikinis doing 8 pull-ups. The stronger you get, the better you look in a bikini. If you fail the strength test, we're done. If you pass it, then I do 3 more quick tests, a standing long jump and a farmer walk. We won't worry about the details here, but the idea is the standing long jump and the farmer walk test my programming. In 6 weeks, your farmer walk should go farther. In 6 weeks, you should jump farther in the long jump. If not, that's on me. And the 4th test is some kind of get up test, either a Turkish get up, the Brazilian get back up test, or just the one I usually use. I just tell a person to get on the ground and I watch them get up. And if it looks like just the whole time, I'm like, oh my God, then I know they have some issues that I have to work on. Getting a person up and down off the ground probably is the fastest assessment I know. You just see so much. So stand on one foot, 2 measurements, 3 questions, 4 physical moves. The Venn diagram is 3 interlocking circles. It's mobility, it's body composition, it's strength. In the middle is a 7. That's a 7 is a person who's failed every test. So they need more than 1 pillow. Their waistline is too big. They can't hold the plank. Oddly, 7s are also the most convinced that they just need 2 weeks to turn everything around. So that's my assessment. I have a book called Can You Go that goes through it in great depth, but basically I just gave it to you right there.
Perfect. Yeah. And we'll include, the links to your site and the books
Sure.
in the show notes as well to help, kind of drive some people there. Well, this has been great. Anything that we haven't covered that you find is very common that, people should become aware of or kind of get in on that.
Well, I hate to say grandmother's wisdom, but I got a book by Lulu Peters in that library. Not this one, but the other one. Well, yeah, you just those are all. That's just awesome. Those are all the magazines from the 1960s. So that'll just tell you what
it's great too, because you can pull those out. Oh, you think that's new? Wait, hold on. Let me show you this.
I do that constantly.
Yeah, I can imagine.
No. Constantly.
I know.
Oh, so you invented that, huh? Oh yeah. No, you didn't. I love it when people reinvent circuit training.
Yeah,
right. Lulu Peters wrote a book in 1915. It's the first low-calorie book, and it's completely underappreciated. First off, she has two eggs fried in bacon fat as 50 calories. So when she's talking about caloric deprivation, it's a different set of numbers than we have in 2021. She believes that you should start every single day with 2 glasses of hot water with lemon and then a 10-minute exercise period. Why I think that's funny is that Pavel always has hot water with lemon after every meal. In the Ayurvedic medicine tradition, they recommend hot water with lemon for fat loss. Lulu Peters in 1915 is recommending hot water with lemon. This is just a small, folks, I'm not telling you to drink hot water with lemon, which I do, by the way. In fact, I'll probably have some right after this. What I'm trying to tell you is this: there's not, like when my mom would tell us to eat more vegetables, she was right. And when my mom would tell us go outside and play, she was right. There is nothing that new. Okay, can I just pop up for a second real quick?
Oh, sure.
Don't go anywhere. So I was just reading this article. It's just funny to read this article. So I'm a volunteer coach. I make a lot of money doing it at a school here in town called Westminster. Okay. And this is the Strength and Health magazine from December 1969. And there are these guys doing high pulls on the field that I actually coach my discus throwers on. This is from 1969. And these guys are doing high pulls on the same field that I started doing in 1969. Why I got this article out is it took a while to find it because I knew it. It's Pat Oshea, the great Oregon State, the late Pat Oshea, strength coach, got his doctorate at the U of U and put together the strength program for Westminster. Okay, why is that important? If you know who Jim Jones is, did you watch the movie 300?
Yes.
Okay, so Mark Twight, my good friend.
Yep.
Mark Twight came up with the workouts for 300.
Okay.
Yeah, they're developed by Pat Oshea, who gave the strength program to Westminster, who got his degree at the University of Utah, where my daughter and wife went, where I coach today the throws. In other words, ain't nothing new under the sun, brother. So if you want to look like the guys in 300, you could go back to 1969 and get the original work. Or you can get all jazzed up and go to some, workout that shall not be named to blow your elbows off and shoulders. So one of the hardest things you're going to get when you bring someone like me is that you're going to, basically, I'm always going to have this insight that, I don't want to say been there, done that, because it's not what I'm trying to get across, but it's been done better before.
Yeah. It's funny because, I was tasked many years ago, probably 7, 8, 9, 10 years ago or so, of creating the Alpha program, which is Lifetime's version of CrossFit. And I had,
excuse me, the workout that shall not be.
Yes, that's right. That's right. And I was looking, I said, first off, I never looked at the workout that shall not be named manual before I did this. And all of a sudden I'm looking and I'm seeing things like, the AMRAPs. And I'm like, well, that's funny. Charles Staley was talking about EDT in T Nation many years ago, many years ago, probably even before T Nation. I said, that's not new. Then I was lucky in Illinois. I don't know if you're familiar with a guy named Bob Gaida.
Of course.
Yeah.
PHA?
Yeah, exactly.
Do you want his original articles?
Yep. And Total Body Conditioning. And his studio is right down the street and all the equipment he used to make. And I'm like, wait, no, that's not new. And then the biomotor abilities. Wait, that's not new. And I'm looking at this. I said, you're great marketers. And again, right, wrong, or indifferent, I'm just like, there is nothing that's new. These people have been doing
Well,
things.
who taught the workout who shall not be named how to Olympic lift? Do you know?
I don't.
Me. And I'll burn in hell forever for that. So thanks for reminding me.
That's great. And then I ended up connecting with Rob Wolf and some of the other guys that have been exiled.
Wait, Rob Wolf got a return to call?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I've got him on a show. I've got him on a previous episode.
Wow. He won't return my calls anymore.
Yeah,
Rob.
I'll make sure I'll talk to him about it.
You better, yeah.
Well, Dan, this has been fantastic. And it's
Thank you.
Great. I can't believe it's been this long that I first got time to talk with you, and
let's do it again.
Absolutely. I look forward to it. I like diving deeper, and I'll push people to the new book and the site. When's the new book with Pavel coming out?
I don't know, but make sure, okay, listeners, danjohn.net. If you decide to print it off, you better get a new printer and a lot of paper. It's about 3,000 pages of free information. Help yourself. There's some newsletters in there they're really good materials. And then my other site is danjohnuniversity.com. It is a paid site, but it's a free couple of weeks membership.
Yep.
And that has what Jason mentioned, the workout generator. I don't want to blow smoke, but the workout generator is pretty amazing. Tell you what, I think the code March will still work, MARCH, which will give them, it's $29 a month, but March is $29 for 3 months. I think it'll still work.
Okay. Perfect.
So that'll get, I mean, if you're just going to go in and look, save yourself some money.
Yeah. I appreciate it. Well, that's great. And thank you so much for your time, and best of luck in further coaching and the daughters. And I might be calling you on some hints.
Anytime.
Mine are growing up.
When you go to danjohn.net, I have a free book in there called From Dad to Grad. I wrote that to my daughter when she was in the 8th grade, and that's my parenting and ideas book. Okay.
Perfect. Will do. Thank you, man.
Thank you, my brother.
Been a pleasure.
You bet. We'll talk soon. Okay.